Hi, welcome to Business Influencers. Hope everyone is having a great week. Again, we are so excited to announce that the show continues to grow here at TALRadio. Thanks to you, the listeners, joining us here each and every week. We highly encourage you to follow us at TALRadio and also on Apple and our Spotify channel at talradio.org. Again, if you're new to the show, welcome. Again, if you have any questions and you would like to see some new subject matter that could cater to your business, feel free to reach out to us at chris@christophersalem.com. That's chris@christophersalem.com. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about Think and Grow You. This is from the Amazon best-selling book from speaker and founder Chris Felton. And before I introduce Chris, I'm going to give you a little background about him. He is an Amazon best-selling author, seven-figure entrepreneur, and the founder and principal of his own financial services firm, which he started back in 1999. He has helped tens of thousands of people internationally to overcome their resistance to change and to create more success, peace, and impact in their lives. Chris speaks from his own experience of being on the edge of financial ruin, business failure, and divorce, and he shares the secrets that allowed him to avert the potential disaster to transform all areas of his life. Chris leads and trains hundreds of agents across the U.S. and helped over 17,000 people become financially literate and experience financial relief. With his latest book and speaking series on Think and Grow You, Chris is focused on helping driven entrepreneurs break through plateaus in their growth by learning how to get out of their own way and take their success and impact to the next level. And without further ado, we welcome Chris Felton to the show. Chris, how you doing today?
Christopher, awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here, Chris. And I know you've done so many great things in this particular area. Let's just talk about, some of the things around Think and Grow You. I mean, I know this book that, you came out with, and it's impacting so many people, financial service professionals, direct sales people, just people in general. And you've been recognized by some high-level people like Ed Milet with this and amongst other people as well. Let's just talk a little bit about what Think and Grow You is. What went into you putting out this book?
Well, Christopher, the problem my book solves is stuck. And, I don't know if you've ever been stuck.
Oh, yeah.
So we as humans get stuck, and, it's okay to get stuck, but it's not okay to stay there. And having been an entrepreneur and a human for 51 years, I know what it's like to live in fear, doubt, and worry. And I know what it's like when you feel like you're doing everything possible and nothing changes. And having coached thousands of people like you have, it's painful for me, and I'm sure you've experienced it, to watch people get so stuck that they think that quitting and giving up is really the only option. And I was I'm empathetic to that, because I was super close to doing that, but I didn't. And so that book is really my story of how instead of quitting, I realized I was the common denominator to all my problems, and I had to get super intentional about growing and changing me. And with my back against the wall, that's what I did.
Awesome. So it's always so important when there's something, a personal story, your experience that, where you were stuck and then you were able to get yourself unstuck, that went into this book. Chris, how can particularly, if people are feeling stuck right now, or maybe they've been stuck, but they're getting out of it, but they're still not where they desire to be. Talk a little bit about why the experience, what you've talked about in your book, is so important. Sometimes we have to appreciate where we were in order to, even appreciate more where we are and where we're going.
Yeah. I basically just share, there's 50 different concepts, not that it's relates to everybody, but I wrote it as a resource so that somebody can, they worry too much, or they're in judgment, or they got forgiveness issues, or they got some sales issues, some money issues, whatever. The idea is they can scan and really get, it's not my teaching that's so important. It's what I did to realize that I was stuck, and I had these pervasive patterns of thought that kept creating the same thing over and over again. Bill Murray and Groundhog Day. And so I think the reason the book is making an impact is people are looking at that, they're seeing, oh, Chris was stuck just like me. But here's a resource he used. Here's an action step he took. And then behind everything I teach is my personal story of going from not only unstuck, but getting on the path to thriving. And so people can really relate and they can see my messes, right? And identify with it. And it gives them hope, man. And it's awesome versus, people in personal development, they stand on a pedestal. They've never made a mistake and it's BS. So it's very real, raw, and authentic.
Transparent. Like you said, you're very transparent and real, and it's relatable.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things, like, again, I know you are a seven-figure earner in your profession. You've done extremely well. If we're like talking about this, if we're, catering this to, let's say, a sales professional, what are some of the things that people could benefit from, the Think and Grow You philosophy that you talk about in the book?
Yeah, I mean, it's the subtitle is how to get out of your own way and level up your life. And so the first pillar in the book is really about how do we get in our own way. And I think me, having been in sales for 24 years, we often live in hopium. Right? And hopium is hoping the outside world's going to change while we insist on remaining the same. And so the first step is just recognizing, one of my favorite formulas is there's me plus a thought equals a result, right? And so if I'm not selling, if I'm not making money, if I'm not getting what I want, there's me and my result. And at the end of the day, what is the thinking that's creating that result, right? So I think what is most impactful about my book, Christopher, is it causes people to sit down and do the work they don't want to do. And you know what it is. It's the hardest work on the planet, and it's actually thinking. And as I share my exercises, I'm like, I finally met the enemy, and it was me, right? But with that awareness, then second pillar is we shift. And then I teach, what I did to actually shift instead of just going down that rabbit hole over and over again and getting the same result.
Got it. Awesome. I know it's a process. Everything is a process, and every person is going to be different in terms of, what that process is going to look for them. Some people could be a little faster than others, but nonetheless, how important was when you were going through this when you committed to that process to show up every day, to go from stuck to unstuck?
Yeah. I mean, my back was against the wall pretty significantly, Christopher. I was $250,000 in credit card debt. My kids were little. He lived on the other side of the country. I'm in Colorado. They were in Atlanta. And my second and current and last wife, Marlo, she had one foot out the door, man. Like, she's like, this sucks. And I'm a financial services entrepreneur in the Great Recession. So when we decided that we're going to stay together and not declare bankruptcy and not get jobs, we're going to figure it out. She was like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm not interested in changing. I'm committed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big difference, as you know.
Oh, yes.
And when you're interested, the first roadblock you hit, you'll cave like a tent in a hurricane, right? And but when you're committed, she's like, what do you mean by commitment? I'm like, you know how an Olympic athlete is with their sport? They're all in. They're committed. There's no question. And I just told her I'm committed. She's like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, I'm going to be up early, and people shower every day. Some people work out every day. They go to the gym every day. I'm going to go to the mental gym every single day, and I'm going to work on me. And if it's 30 minutes, hour, whatever, but that became the habit. That became the commitment. And one of my favorite quotes of Mel Robbins is, it didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time. And we had a transformational, jaw-dropping transformation, not just financially, but me personally as well.
Wow, that's all. I mean, I love what you talked about, and that quote is so true. It is over time; it's not overnight, and so on. What can you share, other than, commitment is so important, Chris? What would be some other things that would play a part in this? Would there be any discipline, maybe certain things that you were doing that maybe were working against you at the time, but now you began to do things differently and work for you? I know that was the case with me. I had to really change not only the way I think, but I began to change some of the habits that weren't no longer serving me, or in this case, were working against me.
Yeah, I think I start the book with one of my favorite quotes by author Jeff Shore. It's a life spent seeking comfort results in an entirely uncomfortable existence. And the masses, we live in the richest country on the planet, Christopher. 95% of people retire broke. I mean, it's insane. And so and we watched it with the pandemic. I mean, people were comfortable, and then boom, something came along, and it resulted in an entirely uncomfortable existence for a lot of people, unfortunately, in many ways. So the masses are addicted to comfort, and it's a bad addiction. And so you're either growing or dying, and you got to be intentional about your growth and development. And so the discipline, like, you can't have it. You know that. You can't have a great life without discipline. You got to have it, but you work on it, small pieces, small steps at a time. It's one of my chapters in the book. Don't eat the elephant. Every time I tried to eat the elephant in one bite, I got frustrated. I got overwhelmed. Yeah. But the power of compounding of small steps over time leads to a massive transformation. And the masses try to make all these changes, these big changes all at once, and they make none. So, the world-class thinkers know that small steps, momentum of compounding of small steps is the key.
Yeah. Wow. That's fabulous what you've shared. I mean, it's so important. So what would be some of the things, Chris, that in the book, what you talked about with your process when it comes to, growing yourself? Because, like you said, it happens over time. We have to embrace challenges in order to grow. And this is what leads to changes monetarily for us and getting us out of debt, and now building wealth for ourselves and in achieving the things that are important to us. What would be other things that you found through your experience that helped in this process?
Well, I mean, it's one of the most beat up topics in personal growth and development, and it is, you got to know what you want. You got to be clear. You got to have clarity. I mean, how many times have we heard that, Christopher? Thousands of times. And I would hear it from world-class thinkers and world-class performers. And I'd take notes, right? And then I'd be like, oh, I got to do that clear thing, that clarity thing. And then I'd come out of a conference, and then a squirrel would run by me, and I'd be like, squirrel, right? I gotta go chase the squirrel. Or as my mentor says, Felton, quit chasing wild asparagus, right? And but I just and I share in the book of finally, just the moments of clarity that I had. But finally it was a world-class entrepreneur, and I was in a how-to session with some of my mentors, and he actually interrupted the meeting. He was late. He interrupted it, and he's like, "What are you all talking about? None of this is important. And the reason I'm kicking all your asses is I've always known what I wanted. I have known what I wanted. I know why I want it, and I can explain it to you in a minute or less. You all aren't clear, so you jack around with all this how-to stuff." Now, the how-tos are important. But if you have no idea what you're going after and why, it's pretty useless, right? The GPS system does not register if it doesn't know point A and point B. So yeah, that was massively important to me. And goal setting is not logical, it's emotional. And once I made it emotional, that's a great point.
That's a great point. What you just said there, Chris. Talk about, like, if people, because that's usually the problem. People will make a goal. A lot of times the goals aren't specific. They're not specific, clear, and concise. They're just very vague. But when you just like you said, an Olympian athlete commits to their what they love to do, and they have goals and objectives, but they're really emotionally tied to it, not to the outcome, but to the process. Can you talk a little bit more about that emotional connection to that process that's the difference of executing your goals versus just logically putting something together. And then, most of the time people don't follow through.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge because you'll, David Goggins, I mean, he's the most craziest athlete on the planet. And he actually would have a Navy SEAL like training program. But he said if people went into SEAL training and they did not have a closely held reason why, they always failed. It didn't matter how good a shape they were in. The mental, I think he calls it the cookie jar, right? Like he'd go pull from the cookie jar of things that were important. So sitting down, and when my wife and I had our transformation, we set a savings goal. It was logical, but we were like, why? And I was like, I don't want to fight with you ever again around money. It's almost always tied back to people. It's not stuff. Stuff's never going to do it. I'm like, I want to be a good dad to my kids. I want to make an impact. I think I'm getting handed this challenge so that I can level up and teach people. So, I got to do that. I want to be an example. But I think the most important thing we did, Christopher, is we identified the feeling that we wanted to have. And we wanted relief, financial relief, like oxygen. And once we did that, it changed. So sit back, think on it. Don't have your ego jack with you. And they're like, Christopher and Chris, no, here's my game plan. And, here's my 400 steps I'm going to take. And if you don't know why, once you hit some adversity, you'll bail and retreat, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And Chris, why would you recommend Think and Grow You, not only for the individual? Obviously, it starts at the individual, but why would you recommend this for even if, let's say, if it's a sales team, no matter what industry it would be, what kind of a difference can this make for the individual, team, and an organization?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read every book, but like I said, most books they're very instructional, and often they're not super relatable, right? And it's a handbook of a guy that's been in, direct sales, financial services for 24 years through some of the craziest times in the history of our country, right? And it is a handbook on how to keep yourself mentally clear. It is a handbook on happiness and fulfillment. And, I'm 51. I feel better at 51 than I did at 31. I really think it is an ongoing resource that it's not a question of if we get stuck, it's when. But the other question is, how long am I going to stay stuck? It is going to help people bring way more peace and fulfillment. And, we've only had it out for a month. We got 61 phenomenal reviews on Amazon. Like it's jaw dropping the difference it's making. And I think it's just because I spill my dirty laundry out all over that book. I had a lady that interviewed me a couple of weeks ago. She's like, I wasn't expecting it. And she did this unzip thing right at the chest. And she's like, I wasn't expecting you to unzip yourself and all your guts were going to spill out, Chris. Most people in personal development don't do that because they want to be seen as the guru. And I don't want to be seen as a guru because I'm not. But I have earned some hard fought wisdom, and I want to help people not have to repeat, and hopefully my thousands of hours of study will cause them to not have to spend thousands of hours studying.
Yeah.
They can get the wisdom now. So,
well, I love the fact that you said, it's relatable. You're not a guru. You're a regular person. Like all of us are regular people. I mean, we all, maybe some of us might appear, but it's all relatable. And I think it's so important that when you can be the example and be a resource, that's the greatest gift that you can give somebody. What are some of the things on the horizon right now, Chris, for you when it comes to the book and the impact you're looking to make, not only in the business world, but especially with direct sales, but, just in general with people overall?
Yeah, I mean, my next project here in about a month is actually just shooting the Think and Grow You workshop, and I'm excited to get that out. That'll be a virtual, digital course that will be a deep dive in the book. So I'm really excited about that. But I'm looking to get to help organizations and keynote and workshops, and the book is written in such a way that literally people can have a custom tailored talk to their group, because there's 50 concepts and they can say, Chris, here's 4 to 5 I want you to come in, or here's a custom tailored workshop I want you to create for my group. And so wrote the book so that it can just not be what I think, and I kind of call that the shotgun approach. I can really be more rifle. And my big thing, man, I want to impact tens of millions of people's lives, and I think this could help people get unstuck and get on the path to the life they deserve. So that's what I'm jacked up about.
Well, like you said, I mean, there's so many uncertainties in the world, many things we can't control, but when it's all said and done, we could always control ourselves. And I know you do that so well in the book, and talking about, what you did, and what are the things you've shared that perhaps other people now could do for themselves to move themselves away from being stuck to being unstuck, and really embracing that process to their success.
Yeah. There's no happy ending to an unhappy journey.
Yeah, exactly. So what would now the book is out right now on Amazon, and what are some of the things like right now? Like, I know you're embarking on doing some speaking right now. So you're getting out there, at entrepreneurial events, looking to bring this into industry events and so on. The book will be part of that deal. If people, bring you into their events, they're going to, the book will be part of that package when they hire you to speak to their groups.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and people can find me at chrisfelton.me.
Right. Great.
Yep.
Well, this is fantastic. And we're going to highly encourage all you listeners out there. This is a great book. I mean, Chris has spent a number of years in direct sales, his own personal process that he's gone through. From what you've heard about, he was $250,000 in debt, had a lot of things working against him, but he was able to turn this into a positive, and now can see all those times that he went through back a number of years ago were blessings in disguise, because we can't become better if we don't acknowledge where we are and make a commitment to that process to get unstuck, in this case, as Chris said. Anything else that you would like to share before we conclude, Chris? I know you mentioned how people can contact you. Anything else that you would like to, share or offer to the audience?
Yeah, no, just excited to get out there and looking to help people, and just help them get out of their own way and get to the next level. So that's what I'm all about, and committed to doing it. So thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks a lot, Chris. And we encourage everybody that's listening here, reach out to Chris, hire him for your next sales event. If you are a direct sales company, network marketing, also if you are a corporation, entrepreneurial events, this is ideal for you as a business owner. This is a book that can help you to really begin to get out there and build rapport and connect with people, so you don't have to feel stuck in yourself. You have that capability of connecting. So again, reach out to Chris. And if for any reason you reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch with Chris. So Chris, I want to thank you again for being here, and we're wishing you much success with the book and everything that you're doing to create impact here in the world.
Yeah, thanks, brother. You as well.
Well, thank you. And thank you, listeners, each and every week joining us here at Business Influencers. Again, we're committed each and every week to bringing guests like Chris, sharing their words of wisdom and insights to take your business and level of influence to the next level. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.